And next up is Eddy Edwards, DOI Cooperative Management Agreement Draft Resolution. Morning, Eddy.
Good morning, everybody. So I sent out an email with just some draft language. I don't have a resolution for approval today, but just some draft language to see if there's an interest in moving forward with finalizing a more formal resolution that can be put some meat on the bones. But the real basic information is that Jeff initiated some language and I touched it up a little bit and brought it forward. Basic point is that the Huron Islands are within the ceded territory of the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community. Our connection to the land and our obligation to protect and care for the land requires us to take action. Whereas the Huron Islands and associated resources on Lighthouse Island are at risk as a result of continued vandalism and deferred maintenance. Whereas the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community wishes to exercise its responsibility to protect the natural resources on and around all 8 islands and retain the ability to conduct our sacred practices and further our traditional knowledge and provide for future generations. Be it resolved that the Community Tribal Council hereby directs the staff to negotiate of a cooperative management agreement between the KBIC, the Department of Interior, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And be it further resolved that the cooperative management agreement shall include the tribe's departments in helping manage those resources. So that's the general idea. Jeff initiated the language. I'm bringing it to council and opening it up for discussion if there's an interest in taking on this responsibility and this obligation and having staff work to put more meat on the bones on how this would actually work and institute discussions with the Department of Interior and the Fish and Wildlife. Anybody got any questions or concerns or thoughts?
I do. Do you have the cooperative agreement that we could look at?
No.
That's just being drafted right now, or?
Yeah.
I think what he's doing is tasking staff to get with the Department of Interior and U.S. Fish and Wildlife to create a cooperative agreement.
Yeah, I would first have our staff get together with Jeff and us and come up with a strategy of how far we wanted to go and what it looked like, and then step off and meet with the Department of Interior and initiate using this resolution as a point to step off to government negotiations.
What resources are you looking at, NRD?
And Jeff can give more background on how this would actually look like and work like.
Yeah, are we looking at NRD? Basically
NRD, the police,
Everything that needs to be done that we have the capability to do that makes sense.
Okay, so there's maintenance, there's the question of natural resources, there's law enforcement.
Right, I mentioned those departments in the brief, but the idea was our task force, our group would, flush that out and see what could we offer, what is common under co-management agreements, and Jeff has a lot of experience in that, so he could lead that discussion and provide examples, so that and then we get natural resources together, law enforcement. We were just talking with Dale about some activities out there already, and and even public works, the trash, things like that. What could we offer? What could we work with, and how could we help manage those resources so they continue to be
Has the
valuable.
Department of Interior said, yeah, go ahead, get something going, or? Huh?
Give you a little background.
Okay, because I don't know.
Yeah. First of all, the Department of Interior, through the Fish and Wildlife Service, out of Seney, is responsible for the Huron Islands National Wildlife Refuge and Wilderness Area, as those 2 statuses. That group of people in Seney is very small. I think at most they have 7 full-time employees when they're fully staffed. They have 5 refuges they're responsible for.
Wow.
They're all within the 1st district, Bergman's district. They're spread out in the upper lower peninsula and across the upper peninsula, including a 60,000 some acre National Wildlife Refuge, which is the crown jewel of the 5 in Seney, where they are. They came to Lance a few years ago, held a public meeting up at the Lance High School, wanted volunteers to step in behind these elderly ladies who had a 20-year agreement with the Fish and Wildlife Service called the Huron Lighthouse Preservation Association. Fuzzy Collins is dead now, who was a child, and his father was an assistant keeper, spent 8 summers up there. He asked me to attend the meeting, I did. Now, I thought it was very odd, a 20-year agreement. And here's these ladies, you know, they're elderly ladies. They put a new roof on the lighthouse. I think some of us, some of the council members, Susan, you were inside the lighthouse, she's seen it.
I got pictures.
The roof was compromised. It destroyed the inside of the lighthouse.
It's awful.
You know, when you're a trustee for something, that's a breach of trust. So, I worked with some people, most of these people were involved in the Crushing That Wind project to recreate and enter into an agreement, a 5-year agreement, and recreate this organization, YOPO. We had a benefit, thank you Larry for the donation. We collected almost $30,000 the other day in Marquette. Well, here's the situation we're in. We go out, we put a temporary roof on the privy. We're gathering the material to put a new roof on the fuel storage building. I go out to the islands, there's 31 bullet holes through the roof of the fuel storage building. And this is making me think back in 2006 when I was on the islands, here on vacation, went out there. The assistant keeper's quarters, the windows were all intact. They weren't boarded up. There was no damage to the inside of that building, no graffiti, nothing, nothing. That's really when, around that time, 2007, 2008, along comes the vandalism. All the windows broke. Smashed the inside of the building. Graffiti all over the place. Graffiti inside the boathouse, the old boathouse, etc., etc. Fish and Wildlife Service, clueless. They don't have the ability to pay attention to the Huron Islands. They just don't have the staff, and they're 140 miles away. This, more than any other example I can think of across this country, is the perfect situation by which a tribe enters into a cooperative management agreement with the Fish and Wildlife Service. And I'm going to tell you straight up, that is a non-starter for that agency. I've heard their senior managers, years ago when I worked for Interior, say, no, we're not going to do that. Pretty soon, Indians are going to be running all of our wildlife refuges, which is ridiculous. What they did at Flathead was really, quite frankly, the worst I've seen at the Department of Interior for the National Bison Range, which is a refuge. Now, I invite this council to talk to that council, and they'll tell you what happened to them. They didn't put up with it. They have a cooperative management agreement with that agency to manage the National Bison Range. It's a little square buffalo ranch within their large reservation. In this situation, I think it's important to our tribe, and especially the young people. You know, you look at the history of that place. We had a full-blood Indian married to a lighthouse keeper. They had children there. And I don't think you can trace that family anymore. I think that bloodline is gone, I think, from people who have looked at this. Those two sons were assistant keepers. We have a history there. One of the first keepers there, and this is really important, I think, Big Sneed, Witt was the guy's name. So Teddy Roosevelt, 1906 or whatever it was, says, we're going to make all this a bird sanctuary. That's the start of the wilderness status to protect the herring gull. What does the lighthouse keeper do? He starts shooting at Indians. This is the history. It's in the history books. You can Google it. You can find it online. He starts shooting at Indians with a shotgun who are going out there to gather eggs. They had rights to gather those eggs. They were conducting subsistence activities, and they needed to conduct them to live. One of the first recorded, daunting, terrible examples of infringement of those rights. It's in the books. And that's why I think it's important for the tribe, for this council, to say and direct your staff to enter into to pass a resolution. The refuge manager talked to President Swartz, did a big song and dance. Then she talked to her management who said, no, we're not going to do that. Well, we happen to have a Secretary of Interior today that's a tribal member and an attorney. She knows the law and she knows what tribal rights are all about. Not a hard sell there. That's who those people report to. They report to Deb Hallett. So this council passes a resolution directing its people to negotiate a cooperative management agreement with that agency, and that agency is going to get into lockstep and enter into that agreement. And we're not asking, you know, natural resources and public works to do all this for free. That trustee pays for those services that they should have been doing all along, so that place just doesn't turn into a mess. A mess where it's all vandalized and people are out there cooking meth and throwing meth waste, which all's happened very recently, etc. So that's what this is about.
So what action are you looking for today then? To move forward with
Yep.
contacting our resources and,
Move forward with creating our
Pass a
our
resolution.
group and we're passing the resolution. We got the language, so we could, you know, give it to the staff to put it into the resolution format and then bring it back for final approval, and then we can step off and figure out what we can do, and then use that resolution to speak forward.
do you need a motion or
As
just?
long as, is there consensus, or is there anybody opposed or have any concerns about this idea or thoughts?
I think you're gonna address them in the motion, you know, getting with all the departments and seeing if we have the resources to do it, and, you know, showing how we're gonna do it and who's gonna be responsible, where the funding's coming from, all that. That's gonna be addressed in your meetings, right?
Yeah, Jeff can take
I
the lead on
I
that.
don't see any problems with anybody else.
You know, negotiate an agreement. They have to pay.
Designated
Yeah,
lead department.
Well, it's about us organizing ourselves
Supporting
first.
departments.
Servicing a composting toilet, picking up trash, doing general maintenance activities. The cultural resources department sometimes may have a role. The natural resources department, you know, the Fish and Wildlife Service has no idea what the status of the herring gull is out there, how many cormorants, the cormorant population is increased. They're not looking at any of this stuff.
Would
But our
you-
natural resources people, they've been out there.
Would you be an objection to natural resource department being the lead contact?
That's what we expect,
Okay,
right?
Yeah, they've engaged
We just
more
wanna
than
lift them
anybody
up.
else.
yeah,
Put them in front of
we
you.
got consensus.
Okay.
Great job, guys. Yeah, I've been out there, we've all been out there, I don't know if everybody has, but I was out there when there was a transite asbestos siding all over everything, the roofing shingles and everything, yeah.
I cleaned that up.
They didn't require you to have a license?
No, I got a license.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I got certified and went out and did it.
nice.
He used to be in hazardous waste.
First piece of asbestos I
Welcome to the club.
non
Thank you, council. So then staff, you know, Bridget can start working with us and Jeff to organize ourselves as we go forward.
Awesome, great job, guys.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, guys.
You know, I wanted to let you know, because there'll be some bumps. That agency is gonna scream, but we'll take care
We're
of
gonna
it.
go above there,
Yep.
government to government. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you,
council.
guys. All right.